The scorching Australian outback stretched endlessly under a merciless Sunday. On the remote military training facility known as Thunder Ridge, the air shimmered with heat waves that could fool even the most experienced marksman. But Maya Chen wasn't fooled by anything. "Mind if I step in?" 4 simple words that silenced the boisterous laughter echoing across the shooting range. The elite tactical team stopped their banter and turned to see who dared interrupt their competition. Standing there in dusty civilian clothes, faded denim jacket, worn hiking boots, was a young woman who looked more like a college student than someone who belonged among these hardened operatives. Sergeant Jake Morrison smirked. "This is a restricted military exercise, miss. You might want to head back to the visitor center." Maya simply walked to the firing line, her movements deliberate and confident. She picked up the precision rifle like she'd done it 1,000 times before. No wasted motion, no hesitation. One controlled breath. One smooth trigger pull. The shot cracked through the desert air, cutting through the stillness like a blade. Complete silence fell over the range. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. Every face shifted from amusement to shock, to that uncomfortable feeling you get when you realize you've severely underestimated someone. The target at 1,200 meters, a distance that had challenged even their best shooters, now bore a perfect center hit. Before anyone could process what they'd witnessed, the facility's emergency alarm began wailing. Red lights flashed as Commander Sarah Blake burst through the range office doors, classified folders clutched in her hands. "We have a situation," Blake announced, her voice cutting through the siren. 12 humanitarian workers have been taken hostage by the Shadow Syndicate in the remote mountains of Cathara. Our intelligence indicates they're being held in a heavily fortified compound that's virtually impregnable. Maya felt her blood turn to ice. Among the photos, Blake spread across the table was a face she recognized. Dr. Michael Torres, the lead researcher from the Phoenix Medical Foundation. But it wasn't just any hostage situation. This was personal. The Shadow Syndicate wasn't just another criminal organization. They were a sophisticated network of mercenaries who specialized in making people disappear. 5 years ago, they had been responsible for an attack on a medical convoy that claimed the life of Maya's mentor, Dr. Elizabeth Ward, the woman who had taught her everything about precision, patience, and protecting others. "The compound is positioned on a mountain plateau," Blake continued, pointing to satellite imagery. 7 strategic observation points surround the facility. Each one is manned by highly trained operatives. Any conventional approach would be detected immediately. Maya studied the terrain photos, her analytical mind already calculating angles, wind patterns, and approach routes. In her backpack was a worn leather journal, Dr. Ward's field notes filled with unconventional tactics and mathematical formulas that had been passed down through years of humanitarian rescue missions. "There's a thermal window," Maya said quietly, tracing lines on the map. "Mountain air creates temperature differentials that could provide concealment corridors, but the timing has to be perfect." Commander Blake raised an eyebrow. "And you know this how?" Maya opened the journal, revealing pages of handwritten calculations and weather pattern analyses. "Dr. Ward documented similar terrain during our medical missions in remote regions. She taught me that sometimes the most impossible approach is the only viable option." Within hours, Maya found herself strapped into a military helicopter, soaring over the rugged landscape toward Cathara. The mission parameters were clear. Neutralize the observation posts, create a safe corridor for the rescue team, and extract the hostages before the Shadow Syndicate could relocate them. As the aircraft approached the drop zone, Maya reviewed her equipment. Instead of standard military gear, she carried specialized, non-lethal precision rounds designed to incapacitate rather than eliminate. Dr. Ward had always emphasized that every life had value, even those who chose the wrong path. The helicopter touched down on a rocky outcrop 3 kilometers from the target compound. Maya moved through the terrain like a ghost, using the natural cover of boulders and sparse vegetation. Her first target was positioned at 980 meters, a lookout post carved into the cliff face. Through her scope, Maya could see the operative scanning the valley below. She steadied her breathing, calculated the wind drift, and fired. The specialized round struck with pinpoint accuracy, delivering a fast-acting sedative that would keep the target unconscious but unharmed for several hours. One by one, Maya systematically neutralized each observation point. Her approach was methodical, almost surgical in its precision. At 1,150 meters, she used the natural acoustics of a canyon to mask her shot. At 1,340 meters, she compensated for a thermal updraft that would have thrown off a less experienced marksman. But as she approached the final position, Maya realized she wasn't alone. A figure moved in the shadows. someone who had been tracking her movements with equal skill. The unmistakable glint of a scope lens caught her eye from an impossible angle. Phoenix Protocol, this is Wraith, crackled through her earpiece. Unknown hostile has you in their sights. Recommend immediate evasion. Maya rolled sideways just as a shot sparked off the rocks, where she had been positioned. Her opponent was skilled, but Maya had an advantage. She fought for something greater than just completing a mission. The duel that followed was unlike anything from an action movie. It was a chess match played with precision instruments across impossible distances. Maya used every technique Dr. Ward had taught her, every mathematical principle, every understanding of physics and human psychology. Her opponent was fast, accurate, and ruthless, but Maya was fighting for 12 innocent lives and the memory of her fallen mentor. When the final shot echoed across the mountain valley, it was Maya who remained standing. The rescue team stormed the compound and successfully extracted all 12 hostages, including Dr. Torres. But Maya's victory felt hollow when she discovered the identity of her opponent, Marcus Reed, a former humanitarian worker who had been corrupted by the very organization they were fighting against. As the helicopters lifted off, with the rescued hostages, Maya sat in quiet contemplation. Dr. Ward's journal lay open in her lap, and she read the final entry her mentor had written. The greatest victory isn't in defeating your enemy, but in choosing not to become one. Months later, Maya stood before a congressional hearing in Washington, D.C. Not as a defendant, but as a witness helping to expose the corruption that had allowed organizations like the Shadow Syndicate to operate with impunity. The evidence she had gathered during her missions helped dismantle a network that had caused suffering across multiple continents. But the most important moment came afterward, in a quiet cemetery, where Maya placed fresh flowers on Dr. Ward's grave. The headstone bore a simple inscription. She taught others to aim for justice, not just targets. Maya opened the leather journal one final time, adding her own entry in the margins. Today I learned that the most powerful shot is sometimes the one you choose not to take. The mission continues, but the methods matter just as much as the results. As she walked away from the cemetery, Maya Chen, now known in certain circles as Phoenix, carried with her the knowledge that true strength isn't measured in the lives you take, but in the lives you save, and the principles you uphold, even in the darkest moments. The Phoenix Protocol lived on, not as a military designation, but as a promise that even in a world full of shadows, there would always be those willing to stand in the light. Asterisk, asterisk. Thanks for watching this incredible story of courage, precision, and moral strength. Hit that subscribe button for more epic adventures, and let us know in the comments, what would you do if faced with Maya's impossible choice? Remember, heroes aren't defined by their weapons, but by their wisdom to use them responsibly. Asterisk, asterisk.